Paige's first dive is a lower degree of difficulty. Remember, they got to do 5 categories. This is her twisting dive for those 6 dives. This is a back 1.5 somersaults with 1.5 twist free at 2.4 degree of difficulty, so a little lower. And again, at that lower degree of difficulty, you have to execute. It's good in the air, tight position, good balance, but then reaches underneath a little bit instead of reaching out and giving that straight vertical entry.
Now over to Duke's Aaliyah Watson, the team's most outstanding diver over the last 2 years, according to Nunzio, their head coach on the diving program.
And Aaliyah starting with the same dive, so the back 1.5, 1.5 at 2.4. And that's more of the entry you're looking for. But I like the dive and a good solid start there. Low degree of difficulty, but execution was good.
A freshman representing Virginia, but from Atlanta, and Elizabeth Kay goes by Lizzie.
So she's going to do the same dive, but add 1 twist, so it's 2.5 twists. But as you look in the middle of the dive, we talked about one of those elements, the flight position. Watch as she comes around. Her legs are going to separate just a little bit right there, and that's going to be a slight deduction, maybe a half point. It's a good dive, but going to keep in those little slower scores, and that's why you see some variability in there.
Familiar territory for her. Again, she's trained here at Georgia Tech, worked a ton on her entries. Home pull here for Hidalgo.
So Cameron's first dive is an inward 2.5 somersault tuck. So she is facing backwards, rotating 2.5 times forward, and nice and solid again. I love her start and her takeoff here, going up and powerful. Nice pike out and good lineup.
Great start there for Hidalgo.
Yeah, over 60 points to start. That's awesome.
And now to the gold medalist on the 1 meter, transitioning to the 3 meter here for Margot Omera.
So right here's, she's going to do the same dive that we just saw Cameron do, but she's going to do it in the pike position. So 2/10 higher degree of difficulty. Now, when she finishes the dive, she's a little bit low, but she comes out and is super tight and does a great entry. But she's going to get really solid scores because of that lineup. That's why it ends up in satisfactory, maybe just on the edge of good.
And to the gold medalist last year, North Carolina's Zoranza Vasquez.
So she's also starting with a back 1.5, 1.5 at 2.4 degree difficulty. A little lower. I saw the one in the warm-up was didn't look like that, so it was probably a lot better effort there and straight up and down. And you're going to get good solid scores.
Finished 6th at the Olympics in Tokyo for Mexico.
She's going to bring a lot more degree of difficulty.
Mia Valet for Miami.
So Mia's doing a forward 2.5 somersault pike, so starting with that front takeoff. First one we've seen that way. And again, lower degree of difficulty, 2.4, but that was fantastic. And again, we talked about her balance in her hurdle. So she's going to hold her arms, swing, and get that kind of magic position we want on the end of the board. Toes in the right spot, and line it up straight up and down.
Finished just behind Vasquez, last year's 3 meter. You see those execution scores, and that's the gamble that you said, that you go with the lower degree of difficulty, you can execute, you can get those 7s and 8s.
Yep, and now you got Emma coming up. She's doing 405B, inward 2.5 somersault pike, same dive that Margot did first. She does actually the highest degree of difficulty in the contest by 1 total point. So has an advantage there as long as she executes. And it's a good start. It's a little bit slow. So I like her takeoff here, getting in a good position. It's moving all right, and a little bit of looseness in her knees as she comes out in there and then stretches and gets it in. Love the feet going in, not quite as clean on the entry.
Getting some 6s and 7s there for Gullstrand, the Swedish Olympian. Beginning round 2 of the 3 meter diving finals with Paige Burrell with a 3.0 degree of difficulty.
Yep, so she's going to do an inward 2.5 somersault pike. And her degree of difficulty is much higher from here on out. So you're going to see this dive is moving away from the diving board a little bit. Here her hips are slightly back. She still finishes it way up and high. and just doesn't quite control the entry enough to get the 7s or better. But I love the fact that it's big and powerful. I just want a little closer to the board and then more up and down. You got to make sure you see over your toes and put the entry in.
Over to Watson.
It's a big one for her. It's her forward 3.5 somersault tuck. And we talked a little bit about kind of that tuck position, right? That if the feet and the knees are outside of the shoulders, that can be a deduction if the judges can see it. You also want your toes pointed in that, and then you got to grab your hands. A little bit of over rotation. There's so many kind of components going on. Yeah, that's why you're coming down into the lower end of the satisfactory category.
Over to Kay.
So that's her inward 2.5 somersault tuck. Again, from back there where she's outside. Now, if you can see that as from, it's easy to see from this angle, but if from the side and you're the judges, depending upon your view, you can see it or can't see it. So there may be some slight deductions in there for that. Inside your shoulders. Feet should be together. Yeah, so this is a nice forward 3.5 somersault tuck from Cami, and we just are talking about that tuck position. This one's, to me, what it should look like, and it was really pretty. Just a little bit over on the finish, but she's got her feet in a little bit more and really puts them together that way. That was nice.
Some solid scores there from judges 6 and 7 there for Hidalgo. And over to Omera. Had a strong start in round 1.
So this time she's doing the backward 2.5 somersaults in the pike position. 3.0 degree of difficulty. A little swingy on the out. I liked her position on the takeoff and how she gets it moving and gets small into her pike. But as you see her come out here, she arches her back slightly going through the water. Could be a little bit tighter. That's why you see some of that splash coming up and the feet are kind of crossed.
You know Omera from her days in St. Louis. What's her development been like?
You know, she's just a great athlete all the way around. Actually, I was the first time that she actually dove with me when I happened to be coaching in St. Louis for the summer back in 2009. So 13 years ago, long time. And again, I love the power that Zoranza has. That's you know, you want to be bold off the springboard and a good power she's got going way up in the air, finishes it early. If I make one thing is that little flex feet in the pike as she's going by the board, I'm guessing that might be the judges that are hitting that 6.5, 7 range where they just see some of that.
Yeah, she's going to like those scores, though, nonetheless. See, for the answer, Mia Valle from Miami, the two went toe-to-toe with one another last year, and you're seeing that again here at the championships in 2022.
Well, you're going to see the exact same dive that Zoranza just did, so judges can look at it, compare exactly directly, you know, what they're looking for. And I would say that one was a little bit prettier in the air because it's a little bit more pointed toes in that. Maybe not quite as high, but it's pretty close and a very nice finish.
Getting some 7s and 8s there for Valle. Over to Goldstrand, finished 13th at the Olympics, just narrowly missing the final with a 3.1 degree of difficulty. Good end in the pike.
So this is Emma's first forward takeoff here. It's the forward 3.5 somersault pike at 3.1 degree of difficulty. So she does an excellent job of being composed, right? Because as you watch in her hurdle here, she's going to step down and does this big kind of double jump to a single jump to her hurdle. But as she hurdles, she actually is a little back on the end of the diving board. That makes it more difficult. You see her kind of come back this direction, but she gets her arms all the way through. Really great pike position. And as she comes out, she looks at it and does a good, solid entry. Still going to be good scores. Really like that.
A host of 7s there for Goldstrand. 2 rounds are through, and Randy Abelman has to like the start from his Miami Hurricanes. Valle, Goldstrand, Omera at the top. Can the Hurricanes continue? We'll find out. Moving to round 3 and back to Paige Burrell for her hardest dive of the program thus far.
Yeah, this is Paige's forward 3.5 somersault pike, same dive we just saw Emma do. She did it for 7.5s in the prelims earlier today. It was a big dive for her. And that's a good effort. I like her hurdle. She's a little bit on the right-hand side corner of the board, just a touch, but doesn't panic. Does a great job of holding her arms, getting it moving. We could see her maybe get out of the dive just a little bit sooner. Love the pike position. Just a little bit underneath on the entry, because remember, when you're stopping, you have to reach in front of where you're going to go so that your hips and your line doesn't roll past vertical, and then you do that pike sit.
And her best scores so far, Idel Gamboa, her coach for UNC, saying she's having a great season thus far, really growing mentally too.
So this is Allie's back 2.5 somersault tuck. Again, 2.8 degree of difficulty. Super fast. I like her strong kick out. Now I know Allie's, a platform diver primarily, and there's a lot of drills and work in there. So I love how quickly she kicks strong with her legs, hands her down, and then reaches back for her entry. Just a little bit of wash.
As far as the scores go versus coming out fast or slow after that initial takeoff, does that matter as far as getting those numbers closer to 7s and 8s?
It's not how fast you come out, but it's that you have to come out the right way and stop it and put your feet in the right spot so that you can control the entry. Nice composure here from Lizzie, right? This is a forward 3.5 somersault tuck, a little bit back on the end of the springboard, but no panic in that. Love how big and explosive her jump is here. Nice tuck, and find the bottom. Good.
You can see the difference there with that tuck more inward towards the chest, right?
Yep. So you want to be as compact and small as possible. All right, so twisting for Cami. So Cami's got the forward 2.5 somersault with a full twist. We call that full out because she does the somersault first and comes out and turns her body into the twist. And again, up and down. Nice tight. A little wiggle in the knees in there. Maybe a half point from the judges. Probably why we get in the 7.5, 6.5, 7.5 range there.
That was one of her most arduous dives of the program for Hidalgo. Now to Omera.
And I think she does an excellent job with this dive. It's a little bit forward on the end of the dive where you see her toes kind of curl over the end there, but does a nice job, get it moving, comes out tight. Maybe a little bit over and throwing some water, but really tight, so it still goes in the water pretty clean.
Judges all confirming your point there, Jason, for Omera. Now over to the defending gold medalist, and Zoranza Vasquez for a 3.1 degree of difficulty.
Her forward 3.5 somersault pike. So you can kind of hear the board where she's really strong and jumping powerful, and she kind of missed the timing on it, but didn't really let that bother her and affect her. She jumps so high, and I love the pike she's getting in there. Again, a little bit of flex feet in there, but lined up and pikes it.
What's the depth like from the ACC divers compared to the others across the nation?
You know, we have four athletes that competed at the NCAAs here last year. Zoranza second in the final. Belay was 11th. And then you had Goldstrand who was 4th. So they're excellent, and it's going to get better. That's a nice forward 3.5 somersault pike. Again, you're getting the same direct comparison between Mia. And she just has nice style. She makes it look easy. Maybe not as high in the amplitude, but does a great job with her body position. Love her pikes and her two-pointed feet.
With that dive, she's still out in front for Valet in first over Omera. Now to Goldstrand to culminate round 3.
Right, last dive of the round, reverse 2.5 somersault pike. So big one here. I love her takeoff there, and we talked about on her front 3.5. She didn't quite get to the end of the diving board, but she just does a much better job with that here. She could possibly get out of the diving just a little bit earlier, because look how high she finishes it. She's at board level coming out. And just a slight over rotation, a little bit of pull on the finish.
With those scores of 6s and 7s there for Gallstrand, she's going to be at the midway point on the table here in this women's 3-meter diving final. Valet still holding strong in first. Omera, Vasquez in second and third. 3 rounds to go. Going to round number 4. Can Paige Burrell accomplish what she did in round number 3 with a 3.1 degree of difficulty, here with a 3.0, here in the 4th round, and continue to climb in these standings? Right now she finds herself in 7th.
Yeah, so this is her back 2.5 somersault pike. She actually missed this dive a little bit in the preliminary, so I'm just kind of talking with her coach a little earlier, but let's see if she knew a really good one here. Saw some good ones in practice. That was awesome. So, you know, she was in the 2s and 3 ranges this morning in the one she did, because she slipped out of the pike position. This is a much better dive. Nice pike and vertical and good knee save action underwater to bring that water down.
I like the resiliency by Burrell from the first 2 dives, Jason, to the last 2. Now over to Watson for Duke.
It's a long contest. So here's the reverse 2.5 somersaults in the tuck position. Again, 2.8.
Not as vertical there.
So when that's okay. So I like what we're doing here in our hurdle, but we get a little bit forward, and then we got to be patient and wait for the board. She's a little anxious, so it scoots, and it moves a little bit too far away. I like the way she kickflip reaches, but because it's a little bit forward, you run out of real estate and don't quite get to vertical, and you get the scores in that deficient range of the 3.5 to 4.
All right, see if she can come back in the next round. Over to Lizzie Kay for Virginia.
So this is her back 2.5 somersaults in the tuck position. Again, only a freshman, right? So we'll probably be increasing that degree of difficulty too, but you know, she's got a really good takeoff here, and controlling your body and your emotions during that first final, and a little bit short, probably trying not to go over there instead of trying to get it into vertical and hitting that window where it's acceptable. So again, the 5s and 4.5s.
All right, Coach Drew Livingston, you see him there, says that her attributes contribute to all 3 boards, a name that you will hear throughout the ACCs moving forward.
So this is Cami's back 2.5 somersaults in the pike position. And I like it. If I'm being picky, I like her takeoff here. She's getting her arms too early. She's getting into a deep pike. As she comes out and she goes to the water, I see her head kind of move down a little bit, which is why you see the feet kick over slightly. But good scores over the 60-point mark, which is great.
Now to Duke's Omera.
She's doing her forward 3.5 somersault top. And again, right, it's all those elements of the dive. It's the approach and the takeoff. It's the flight into the air. And that when you're going in, you want to be vertical, and this is really vertical. And she comes out and sees the water with that nice pike out action.
One of her best dives so far in the program for Omera, who won on the 1-meter board.
You know, high good. She's in the middle of the contest, so she's applying pressure by doing good dives.
Let's see if Vasquez can start to regroup and take control here. She's the defending champ. Keep that in mind.
So this is a back 2.5 somersault pike, 3.0. And that's going to help, right? I like that she's big and powerful. She stops it at vertical. I like the come out and how she gets out at the right time and places her feet where she's supposed to. And nice straight entry, good knee save. Again, just those little tiny feet that are flexed in the middle and kind of apart. And so that's what brings that out of the very good 8.5 to 9.5 scores, but solid.
Those 2 were terrific at the Olympics. It applies the pressure on the leader in Valet.
Her reverse 2.5 somersaults pike. And that is an awesome job, because as you see her hurdle here, watch her feet. They're going to land over the end of the diving board, and that's how you know that this person is a pro, because she doesn't panic. She waits, she comes out, and she just drills the entry.
That was one of the prettiest dives so far from all the divers here. You can see that with a couple of 9s.
Yeah, I mean, you watch that, and kind of as weird as it may sound, when you see a very good dive to an excellent dive, you kind of get that kind of tingly feeling of like, oh, yeah, that was special.
See if her teammate in Goldstrand can follow in Mia's footsteps.
So her first of her 2 twisting dives, forward 2.5 with a full twist. That's beautiful. Again, you can see how balanced she is in her hurdle. Nice and tall. This is an easy dive for her, you know, at 3.0. Nice pike position, out, and great lineup and awareness there.
Tremendous effort there by Goldstrand, the Swedish Olympian. And because of that dive and these scores, Jason, with a slew of 8s, she will be in second going into round number 5. Her teammate, Mia Valle, is in first. Zoranza Vasquez, not too far, in third right now. Look at the separation, just 13 points from gold to bronze. 2 rounds to go. Beginning round number 5, the last 2 dives in rounds 3 and 4 for Burrell were impeccable versus the first 2 dives. Can she continue that here in the 5th round?
Yeah, it's never over, right? You got to do all your dives. So this is a reverse 2.5 somersault pike. We just saw her do a back 2.5 somersault pike. Same rotational space, but she's going facing forward and doing that hurdle first. And that's good. You see a lot of divers put those two dives together because they are very similar patterns. I like her hurdle. Again, maybe just a tiny bit over the end with her toes, but doesn't panic. Nice deep pike and out, up and down. That'll work.
Her vertical there for Burrell, getting an 8 there from Judge 4 at 282.55. And scores are very impressive. You talked about the depth of the conference, and they're showcasing that here in the 3-meter final. Here comes Watson for Duke, 2.7 degree of difficulty. Culminate in the tuck position.
You remember yesterday we watched the 8th place finisher on the men's 1 meter in the prelim move all the way up to 3rd. So there can be some movement. This is Allie's 405, inward 2.5 somersaults tuck, 2.7. Now, that dive is depending upon if the judges see it. I see this dive moving a little bit to the right. She turns a tiny bit, and it's off to the side of the board. Now, that's a slight deduction there. Looks to me like maybe the ones that were on the side that's closest to maybe.
Over to Lizzie K now.
This is her reverse 2.5 somersault tuck. We saw her do back 2.5 somersault tuck in the last round. So, again, hurdle, and then backwards rotation toward the board. She's probably been on that board. She's a little over the end with her toes, but she does a great job with that of finding vertical, using those visual cues, and coming out with a kick and a look and a reach back.
She's worked on those mechanics, to your point, representing Pace Academy Swim and the dive team as a captain there with Drew Livingston. Over to Cami Hidalgo.
So this is the same dive. So you'll get to see another reverse 2.5 somersaults tuck. I like the takeoff. It's a little bit on the corner. Again, it's when you see some of that, those feet are kind of crowded together, but nice kick out. Just maybe a little bit late. Those feet were slightly high, so it's washing over in the entry.
She's been excelling on all 3 boards. Maybe her strongest could be the platform to come later on in the championships.
You know, since she was a junior diver out in California. A nice forward 2.5 with a full twist. So and she does it again, that front 2.5 full out, what we would call that dive. I like the way that she hurdles. I like the way she gets it up and moving. Makes it look easy. Yeah. And she didn't quite get her arms all the way up when that board's down, but she's in good shape. And I love that she picks her head up as she throws to help initiate the somersault first. That's why she can come out and be straight for that whole position and then pike down and line it up.
She's going to like her scores here, especially for Judge 3, getting that 8 there. 66. Vasquez made a surge, as mentioned, in rounds 3 and 4. Can she do the same in round 5?
And she was fighting herself a little bit there. She's a little over the end. You can see she's kind of not real happy with that because she's slightly over the end of the board with her hurdle. And so it doesn't quite get that balance and everything she wants out of it, and then has to pull a little bit. Needed to wait just a little longer.
This has been the trendsetter, Jason, and Mia Valet. She's been at the top along with her teammate, Gulstrand, to
she's nice and easy and smooth and pretty in the pike. Nice and tight. And impeccable entry there, nice knee save.
She's still going to be at the top, 3-time junior national champ for Canada. A lot of experience as well at the World Junior Championships and the World University Games too, for her 5th dive, and Emma Gulstrand.
Yeah. Really good. Get those arms all the way through and connects, and you see her spot the water there and put her feet at the diving board to stop. And again, as it's over rotating a little bit underwater, you see her bend her knees and pull them back in and bring the water down to get those good scores.
And for the Olympian Gulstrand, that dive is going to keep her in 2nd place, right behind her teammates. It's all Miami at the top, going into the twisting round.
You know, this happens to be, it looks like that this is the category many of them decide to double up on. No, that's wrong. She does it full in, so she does the twist first. That was my mistake. But I like what she does here, how she gets her arms all the way through and shows that position nice and tight, and gets into a deep pike there and shows the checkout and finds vertical. Good.
I think she's got to be really pleased with her performance, especially as the rounds came along, getting an 8 there from Judge 6 for Paige Burrell, and a big hug and jubilation with her coach Gamboa.
You know, she's up for that by doing some excellent dives after that.
And the culmination for Watson.
So Allie's doing the back 1.5 somersaults with 2.5 twists at 2.8 degree of difficulty. So that dive is more twists and less somersaults, so she needs to be a little bit more vertical on the extension. And then, surprisingly enough, Allie's usually really good at her entries. I didn't think she quite got her hands and got the sound that we want on the entry. Probably keeping it in the satisfactory range.
I know a totally different dive, but you can see that she didn't get so powerful to get jumped off the board, right?
Yeah, hear him now. Lizzie's going to do the same dive that we just did, except for she's going to do a hurdle first, so she's going to do the reverse 1.5 somersaults with 2.5 twists. She gets into trouble in her hurdle here, so as she comes in from her double here to a single, she's a little tight to the end of the diving board there, and then watch as she hurdles backwards. Well, now your momentum's going back towards the board. That's not easy, right? And so then you're not sure where you are, and you see her bend her legs because you're also then trying to move it away from the diving board, and you're working against your momentum to try and rotate in that direction.
And nonetheless, congratulations to Lizzie Kay making the final there with her diving coach for Virginia, Drew Livingston. Over to Cami Hidalgo in her home pool.
Lizzie will come back and build on that. Cami's got the same dive that we saw just a second ago. Back 1.5 somersaults with 2.5 twists at 2.8. And that's going to end a solid lift, right? No big misses in there. Nice back 2.5 twister here. I like her press and her arms through. Maybe a little bit knees and feet. Kind of coming out there in the middle. 6.5, 7. Yeah.
I agree. Solid performance by Hidalgo. Could she perhaps get bronze? We'll see. Now to Omera. She's been hovering around that bronze spot here behind Valet and Gulstrand. Again, a lower degree of difficulty, but want to execute here to keep those scores high.
Right. We'll see how it pays off. Kind of like I saw her do on 1 meter the other day in the prelims. She's a little forward on the diving board and maybe scoots out a touch. And so in that, your twist is a little wobbly, and then it doesn't quite get square. You see kind of both legs, the kind of there. So the judges are kind of looking at it. I would be surprised if the judges' scores are a little bouncy up and down, because depending on where you're sitting, you notice that more.
Tonight, of course, we'll have to see the last 3 divers. Will begin with Vasquez.
So different position for her from the other day. This is a forward 2.5 with a full twist. A little different mindset. And again, you see how powerful and strong she is. You know, she jumps so high. This is a better hurdle on the end of the diving board than she was. Getting out nice and easy, and finishes that way, and has so much time to find the lineup and the entry.
It's a huge finish there for Vasquez, applying that pressure on Valet and Gullstrand here to end the championships. Oh, she liked it, Jason, with that final dive.
And she should. That was awesome.
Can Valet hold on for gold?
It's going to be very interesting. So Mia's doing the same dive. So she's going to throw it out there to put her in a spot to say, hey, yeah, come get me. I really like her hurdle and her takeoff. She's nice and composed. And again, she just makes it look really easy, and feet are pointed the whole way through, nice and tight and straight lineup.
Just going to love these scores, Jason. It's likely going to give her gold here on the 3 meter, and now to her teammate in Gullstrand. And you see the hug there with Randy Abelman. Has to be pleased. Could be a gold and silver for Miami.
Yeah, and now we got Emma's final dive. So Emma's doing the hardest dive in the contest. So it's a forward 2.5 somersaults, not with 1 twist, but 2. She's already done 1 with 1 twist. 3.4 degree of difficulty, so she's got a little edge. It's going to be really close. In fact, so if we slow that down, we go to the front 2. The side view, you're going to see her be in a little trouble with her hurdle, but does a nice job to get it going, coming out that way, and a little feet in the middle, but nice entry into the water, and toes are pointed. And again, good scores there for 8s, giving her almost 80 points. She ends up.
Here's the gold medalist right there, Mia Valet. She's in first, just ahead of her teammate in Gullstrand, represented Sweden in the Olympics. Another Olympian, Vasquez, gets the bronze.